In this video, I'm just going to simply review everything that happens with a absolute value function for transformation. So I'm looking at what happens with the A, the H, and the K, which if I were to write it out without any numbers, that's what it would look like. So when we looked here, when we had something happening inside the absolute value, it was a horizontal shift left or right in the opposite direction of the sign. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a couple examples. So if I have y is equal to x minus 5, this is telling me the function went right 5. Okay? And it's also, if I had nothing else, I would know that I had 5, 0 as my vertex. But I'm just giving this very simply as an example of what happens here on the inside. Okay? If I were to have y equals the absolute value of x plus 5, then this tells me that the function went left 5. So the direction is opposite of the sign. For this next one down here, excuse me, notice that I'm dealing with a number outside the absolute value. It's a vertical up or down, and it goes in the same direction as the sign. So positive goes up, negative goes down. So if I have a function that says y is equal to the absolute value of x, and I close the absolute value, and I put minus 5, this means the function went down 5. If I have y equals the absolute value of x, I close my absolute value, and I have a plus 5 on the outside, this means my function went up 5. So on the next one, I have nothing but a negative there. So if I do y equals negative, and let's just pick the number 5, since that seems to be what I'm doing right now, I'm just talking simply about the negative sign here. This negative sign right there, I'm not talking about the 5, just the negative sign means I had a reflection over the x-axis. Just that negative sign. If I have y equals negative 1/5 absolute value of x, the same thing is true. Just the negative sign gives me the reflection over the x-axis. The number that's being multiplied here tells me whether I have a stretch or compression. So let's look at that in this way. If I have a y is equal to 5 times the absolute value of x, or if I have y is equal to negative 5 absolute value of x, either one of those, what I'm focusing on here is the number, not the negative sign. So 5 is greater than 1, so that means I have a stretch. If I were to have y is equal to 1/5 absolute value of x, or y equals negative 1/5 absolute value of x, again, for stretch or compression, I am looking at the value of this number right here. Okay? So I'm going to ask myself, is 1/5 bigger or smaller than 1? Is it bigger than 1? Well, the answer is no, it's not. so it can't be a stretch. So I know that the number 1/5 is between 0 and 1. Therefore, it is a compression. Okay. So, one last thing before I stop torturing you about transformation. I want you to look at this here. So just because I have a fraction doesn't mean it's between 0 and 1. If I had the number 5/3, 5/3 is bigger than 1. So that would make it a stretch. Where if I were to have 2/3, 2/3 is bigger than 0 and smaller than 1, which makes it a compression. So be careful, just don't think it's a fraction. It has to have a value between 0 and 1 in order to be a compression.